Imagine looking at your lemon tree every morning and seeing almost nothing happening. The leaves are falling, the branches look quiet, and weeks can pass without a single healthy new shoot appearing. Then, suddenly, within about a week, tiny fresh green shoots begin appearing, and the only new thing you introduced was a simple homemade onion skin water treatment. That is exactly the kind of result that makes you stop and ask, what is happening underneath the soil? At first, I was skeptical too. Onion scraps are something most people simply throw into the kitchen waste, so it sounds strange to think that those same scraps could have a useful role in caring for a lemon tree. But once you understand what is actually happening around the root zone, the idea becomes much more interesting. In this video series, I'm going to break the entire method down into simple steps, explain why onion water may help support the soil environment, show you how to prepare it properly, and most importantly, explain what you should and should not expect from it. Because this is not about finding a magical liquid that suddenly forces a weak tree to grow. It is about understanding the relationship between the roots, soil, moisture, nutrients, and beneficial organisms living underground. If you enjoy practical lemon growing tips and simple gardening experiments that make use of things you already have at home, make sure you stay with me through all 4 parts. Now, let's begin with the problem. A lemon tree can be alive and still look completely inactive. You may see green leaves, but no fresh branches. Flowers may appear and then fall before developing. Fruit production may be disappointing, or young fruit may develop very slowly. You may already be watering the tree regularly. You may even be giving it fertilizer, compost, or other plant food. Yet the tree still seems stuck. When that happens, many gardeners immediately assume the answer is simple. Give it more fertilizer. They increase nitrogen, add extra compost, or start using several products at once. Sometimes that works, but often the real problem is somewhere else. Your soil may already contain nutrients. The bigger issue could be that the roots are not able to access those nutrients efficiently. Think about it this way. Putting more food on a table does not help if the person sitting there cannot properly eat it. Your lemon tree needs a functioning root system to take advantage of what is available in the soil. Poor drainage, compacted soil, excessive watering, previous root damage, or unhealthy soil conditions can all interfere with that process. When roots are under stress, the leaves and branches above the ground often show the consequences. This is why simply adding more fertilizer is not always the smartest first move. You need to look below the surface. Another important point is the season. Not every slow-growing lemon tree has a problem. During cold weather or other unfavorable conditions, citrus growth naturally slows down. But if your lemon tree is sitting still during a warm period when it should be actively growing, that is worth investigating. This is where onion water becomes an interesting natural experiment. Onion skins and outer layers contain naturally occurring compounds, including flavonoids such as quercetin and sulfur-containing compounds. They also contain small amounts of minerals. These substances do not turn onion water into a complete fertilizer, and you should never think of it as a replacement for proper plant nutrition. Instead, its potential value comes from the way the organic compounds interact with the soil environment. A properly prepared onion infusion may provide a gentle addition of organic compounds around the root zone and can support a healthy soil ecosystem when used alongside good gardening practices. Think of it as a possible wake-up signal for the root area rather than a powerful chemical feed. When the soil environment is healthy, beneficial microorganisms can become more active, organic matter can break down naturally, and nutrients already present in the soil may become more accessible to plant roots that can eventually show up above the soil as stronger leaves and fresh growth. There is another reason gardeners are interested in onion skins. Some compounds found in onions have natural antimicrobial and antifungal properties. However, this does not mean onion water should be considered a guaranteed treatment for root disease or fungal infection. If your lemon tree has serious disease symptoms, you still need to identify and address the actual cause. The biggest lesson is simple. Natural remedies work best when they support good growing conditions rather than trying to replace them. So, before you prepare your first batch, take a close look at your lemon tree. Is the soil constantly wet? Does water drain away properly? Is the tree receiving enough sunlight? Are the leaves changing color? Are the branches producing any new buds? These observations are just as important as the homemade treatment itself. In the next part, I'll show you exactly how to prepare the onion water from ordinary kitchen scraps, how long to soak it, how to strain it, and the right way to apply it around the lemon tree without creating unnecessary stress for the roots. And trust me, the preparation is much simpler than most people expect. Now that you understand why the condition of the root zone matters, let's move on to the part most gardeners want to know. How do you actually make onion water, and how do you use it without overdoing it? The good news is that you do not need expensive equipment, special ingredients, or a complicated recipe. You can start with something that would normally end up in your kitchen trash. Begin by collecting clean onion skins and outer layers. The dry papery pieces, thin outer layers, root ends, and clean scraps can all be saved. Instead of throwing them away after cooking, keep them in a small container for a few days. You do not need to use fresh onions specifically for this. In fact, using the scraps gives you an easy way to reuse something that would otherwise become waste. For a basic preparation, collect roughly 1 loosely packed handful of onion skins and scraps. If you are working with whole onion material, you can use approximately 1 medium onion for around 1 liter of water. But remember, homemade mixtures can vary in strength, so there is no need to make the solution extremely concentrated. More is not automatically better when you are dealing with plant roots. Once you have enough onion material, place it into a clean bucket, jar, or other suitable container. Add room temperature water. Avoid using extremely hot water, because the goal is to create a simple infusion rather than cook the onion material. For an application intended for a mature lemon tree, around 3 to 4 liters of water can be prepared. Let the onion material remain submerged for about 24 hours. If you want a stronger infusion, you can allow it to sit for up to 48 hours. During this period, some of the naturally occurring compounds from the onion scraps gradually move into the water. The liquid may change from clear to yellow, amber, or brownish in appearance. It will also develop a noticeable onion smell. Do not worry if the aroma is strong. Onion naturally has a distinctive smell. However, there is an important difference between a normal onion infusion and a batch that has been left to rot. You are looking for a simple soak, not a container full of decomposing organic waste. Once your soaking period is finished, the next step is filtering. This step is easy to overlook, but it matters. Remove the onion pieces from the liquid using a fine strainer, clean cloth, or similar filter. You want to separate the liquid from the solid scraps. Do not pour the entire mixture onto the soil with chunks of onion still floating in it. Those pieces can begin breaking down on the surface, attract insects or other pests, and create an unpleasant mess around the tree. After straining, you should have a dark or amber-colored liquid with the characteristic onion smell. Now comes the application, and this is where many gardeners make their first mistake. Do not immediately pour the onion water onto completely dry soil. First, check the moisture around the root zone. If the soil is very dry, give the tree a normal watering and allow the soil to become evenly moist. The goal is to avoid shocking or stressing the roots with a concentrated homemade liquid entering an extremely dry root environment. Once the soil has reasonable moisture, take the onion water and distribute it slowly around the drip line of the lemon tree. The drip line is the approximate outer edge of the tree's canopy. This area is important because many of the smaller feeder roots are located farther away from the trunk. Pouring everything directly against the trunk is not the best way to reach those active roots. Instead, walk around the tree and spread the liquid evenly across the root zone beneath the outer branches. For a mature lemon tree growing directly in the ground, the prepared 3 to 4 liters can be distributed around the drip line. If your lemon tree is growing in a large container, you can use a smaller quantity, perhaps around 1 to 2 liters depending on the size of the pot and its drainage. And drainage is critical. Always make sure the container has proper drainage holes, because citrus roots do not appreciate sitting in stagnant water. A homemade treatment cannot compensate for poor drainage. If water remains trapped around the roots, you need to solve that problem first. Now let's talk about frequency, because this is where the idea of more must be better can cause trouble. You do not need to apply onion water every day. In fact, doing so can create unnecessary moisture and disturb the balance of the root environment. A more reasonable approach is to give the tree time between applications. During active growing conditions, you can consider applying the preparation approximately every 7 to 10 days while closely observing the tree. The purpose is not to flood the soil with onion water. The purpose is to introduce the treatment occasionally and then give the root zone time to respond. When I tested the method, the first application marked the beginning of the observation period. Around the following week, I began looking closely at the dormant buds and existing growth points. This is where you need patience. Instead of standing back and waiting for the entire tree to transform overnight, examine the small details. Look along the branches for tiny new green points. Check the leaf color. Examine the soil. Watch how quickly the tree responds after normal watering. These small observations can tell you much more than simply counting the number of days since application. If the treatment is helping your particular tree, one of the first things you may notice is fresh growth emerging around the nodes. These are the points along the stems where leaves and new shoots can develop. New growth often begins as a tiny green bump or point before gradually extending into a recognizable shoot. That first sign can be easy to miss, especially if you are not checking the plant closely. Another thing worth observing is the color of the new leaves. Healthy young lemon leaves may appear brighter green than mature leaves at first, but they should develop normally as they mature. If the new growth remains extremely pale, yellow, weak, or distorted, do not assume onion water is the answer. That could indicate a completely different problem. Your tree may need attention to nutrition, soil pH, watering, pests, disease, or root health. This is why I always recommend treating homemade remedies as experiments within a larger care routine rather than as guaranteed cures. There is also something interesting happening beneath the surface. If the soil is healthy and biologically active, you may notice that the area around the drip line becomes less compacted and more crumbly over time. Depending on your garden, you might even see increased earthworm activity. These signs do not prove that onion water alone caused the improvement, but they can tell you that the soil environment is becoming more favorable. And remember, the roots are the foundation of everything happening above the soil. If the root zone improves, the canopy has a much better chance of responding. Before you rush outside to prepare your first batch, there is one more thing you need to understand. Onion water should be used carefully, and the condition of your tree comes first. If your lemon tree is already stressed by extreme heat, standing water, severe disease, or damaged roots, simply adding another liquid may not solve the underlying problem. In the next part, we're going deeper into what to watch for after applying onion water, how to recognize genuine signs of improvement, what some gardeners combine with this method, and why one common mistake involving wood ash can actually make your soil worse if you use it without understanding your pH. What if the lemon tree in your garden is not actually lacking fertilizer, but its roots simply are not able to use what is already available? A slow-growing lemon tree, falling leaves, weak branches, missing new shoots, and poor fruit production can often be connected to problems around the root zone, such as compacted soil, poor drainage, excess moisture, or general root stress. That is why I tested a simple homemade onion water treatment using something most people normally throw away: onion skins and clean kitchen scraps. Onion skins contain naturally occurring compounds and small amounts of minerals, and when soaked in water, they create a mild organic infusion that can be used around the soil. This should not be treated as a miracle fertilizer or a guaranteed cure, but it can be a useful low-cost experiment when combined with proper lemon tree care. To prepare it, collect about 1 loosely packed handful of clean onion skins and outer layers, place them in a container, and add room temperature water. For a mature tree, around 3 to 4 liters of water is enough for an application. Let the mixture sit for 24 to 48 hours, then strain it carefully so no onion pieces remain. Before applying it, make sure the soil is not completely dry. If necessary, water the tree normally first. Then slowly distribute the onion water around the tree's drip line, the outer area beneath the canopy where many feeder roots are located. Avoid pouring everything directly against the trunk, and never use excessive amounts on a tree growing in poorly drained or waterlogged soil. During active growth, allow several days between applications rather than using it every day. Around 7 to 10 days is a reasonable observation interval. After applying it, do not simply wait for a dramatic transformation. Inspect the tree closely. Look at the small nodes along the branches and watch for tiny fresh green buds. Check whether the leaves are becoming healthier in color, and examine the soil around the drip line for signs of improving structure and biological activity. If nothing changes after repeated care, do not keep adding more onion water. Instead, investigate the real cause. Check drainage, sunlight, soil condition, pH, pests, disease, and root health. One mistake gardeners sometimes make is automatically combining onion water with wood ash. Wood ash can provide potassium and raise soil pH, but lemon trees generally prefer slightly acidic conditions, so adding ash without knowing your soil pH can actually create nutrient availability problems. If you ever use wood ash, it should be clean, untreated wood ash and applied carefully according to the condition of your soil. And remember these important rules. Never use rotten or moldy onion scraps. Never flood an already waterlogged root zone. Avoid applying homemade liquids during extreme midday heat. And never expect one application to transform a struggling tree overnight. The biggest lesson is that onion water is not magic. A healthy lemon tree needs good drainage, suitable sunlight, balanced nutrition, healthy roots, and proper moisture management. The onion water method is simply one inexpensive way to experiment with your soil care routine while reusing kitchen waste. If your lemon tree is struggling, start by observing the root zone instead of immediately adding more fertilizer. Sometimes the real breakthrough comes from fixing the environment around the roots. If you found this natural lemon growing tip useful, subscribe for more simple, low-cost gardening experiments, and comment onion if you are planning to test this method on your own lemon tree. Keep observing, keep learning, and remember, healthy growth starts beneath the soil before you ever see a new leaf above it.